Imagine if I told you you had a strategy that wasn't going quite right for your company. And then imagine if I told you that strategy was getting more and more and more expensive. And in fact, what I mean by not going quite right, it is causing your company to engage in huge amount of risk. Well, today I'm going to talk about the problem of IT strategy, and this is exactly what we're seeing with our investment in technology. The blue line you'll see here is our investment in the technology and services. We are now in the US in billions of dollars. We're increasing our investment in IT security 10% year over year over year for the foreseeable future. What we're also seeing is that breaches are at an all-time high. 2014 was the highest number of records stolen ever. 2015 beat that record. And yes, 2016 is the highest recorded of personal identifiable information stolen. So what does that actually mean? It probably means that our strategy is broken. Let's look at some of the highlights from 2016. Yahoo. Oh, Yahoo, how you've fallen so far. So Yahoo lost 1 billion records at the end of last year. Let me say that again. Billion records. That's all of them they lost to cyber criminals. It affected their price that Verizon was going to pay for them, over $200 million. And in fact, Marissa Mayer personally lost between 7 and 8 figures the day that was announced. How about the DNC? We know that now cyber criminals are invading our politics. And if you saw the news last night, there was a similar attack in the French political arena as well. Now let's talk about companies that have all the resources in the world to see what they're doing. Snap, the largest IPO in the history of business. Well, Snap is not without its problems as well. And in fact, last year, Snap lost personal identifiable information, and they have more resources than anyone else does right now. Now, how about a company that doesn't have as much resources? Rokenbach Education is a small startup in Southern California that develops apps for middle school and high school students. Cyber criminals invaded their network, locked down their database, and held at ransom until they paid a substantial amount of money, just about driving that company. So we see even the largest to the smallest customers are dealing with this particular problem. It is a problem that we're all trying to solve. Well, maybe we need to start rethinking this, and maybe we need to start throwing money and be more intelligent about the strategies we employ. The research that we have done through funding at the National Science Foundation is developing something that we're calling the Human Firewall. Now, the common thread between all the attacks that I talked about is they weren't attacks on the technology per se, they were attacks on the users. All of these attacks were done by phishing emails. So the email that you click on and install something nasty on your particular network. Well, when you think about it, we're investing all this money in the technology, and really 95% of all enterprise attacks are going towards humans. So we need to rethink on how we do this. We believe there's 3 ways to do this. One way is improve training, another way is in motivating employees, and we need to change the role of the IT department. Let me touch on each one of these just real briefly. So who here has taken IT training, security training or otherwise before? I want to apologize from all the IT people on that experience. It is right now an awful experience that we're seeing. Through the lens of our research, what we've seen is, believe it or not, that's better than nothing. But there is a better way. Recently, we've been talking a lot in the popular press about this construct called mindfulness. And mindfulness is for you to basically take a pause in your actions, reflect on what you're doing, and act more intelligently. When you infuse mindfulness training into security training, there's great leaps in the efficacy of that particular training. Interestingly enough, and our research also shows, mindfulness training bleeds over onto how you act and interact with other people in your organization. So not only do you become more secure, your organization operates at a higher level. So how do you motivate employees? The second thing that we're going to do. So it really is a carrot or the stick, right? So we've investigated different ways of motivating employees to act securely. Let's start out with the stick. So we've put up shame boards. If you do something in this organization, we'll put your name on this particular board to get you not to do this. We've also done things where we've looked at a collective environment, where everybody is trying to act more securely, and we recognize that, again, in a leaderboard type of environment. We've also done things in organizations through experiments where we looked at competitions. Everybody is in competition to identify what security threats are to the organizations. Now, what we found, not surprisingly, the shame boards are awful. They don't work, and in fact, they make you less secure as people. But what we did find, that acting as a collective, what we're terming this human firewall, is the best way to secure your organization. So people, what that means is, rather than turning towards technology to help you feel more secure, you're turning towards your coworker. So think about this. Your last error message that you received on your computer. What did you do with that? You got it off the screen as quickly as you possibly could. Probably not reading it, right? Remove this as fast as I can. But then when a colleague told you there might be a problem with the particular security, what exactly did you do? Well, you listen to them. We know as humans, we need to start acting as humans rather than relying on the technology. The third thing we want to do is we want to change the role of the IT security department. We want to literally take them out of the basement and put them into operations. Investigate ways that we can actually have them in the organization operating among us. One of the things we're doing right now is we're looking at people's different social networks within organizations. So that means, who do you go for advice to? Who are your friends in this particular organization? Who are you working with in this particular organization? And then build out resilience through those networks rather than through the folks in the basement. Having that, raising that, is an important part of what we're trying to do. So I get to ask this question a lot. What can I do in my organization as a person to be more secure? And I think the first thing that we can all do is be more aware. So how do you do this? I would encourage everybody after this lecture to see if you've been hacked. Simply see if you've been hacked. There's several services out there that'll show you if you've been hacked. So I've been hacked. So this is one of several services that you can go to. Enter in your work email, enter in your personal email, and it'll tell you all the services that your information was stolen from. In my case, Last.fm, Dropbox, Tumblr, Adobe, and a couple others that I was so embarrassed I took them off the list. So what else can you do? Well, another thing you can do is start acting with mindfulness practices. We know through the lens of our research, if you pause even for the briefest moment, fractions of a second, and reflect, you make better decisions. You also are a better colleague when you do this. So building resilience through mindfulness practices is something that you can do personally with or without that training. We use the simple mantra: stop, think, and act. And I think that's a great way to proceed not only through IT security, but interacting with peers in your organization. Another thing you can do, take responsibility for your data. It is not the IT folks that are hopefully not out of the basement anyomore's problem when something goes wrong. The model of being indemnified for your actions needs to end. You need to take responsibility for your actions. And you can do that by building awareness and acting mindfully. Now, this will build the human firewall, whereas a collective will laminate that on the technology that we're investing in. One of the things that will do is that'll change the strategy on how we invest. The money will be better spent, and thus creating more secure organizations. Thank you.